This is from Ben. Hi, Ben. Ben says Carlson does not have the same opinion as me. Therefore, Russia is controlling him.
I like this one. Live from
So,
my mum's house because it has free Wi-Fi. My mum doesn't have a house, but that's beside the point. I like this one because it does sort of get to what I wanted to bring up, probably after we start talking about, after Pat's talked about
well,
Carlson being
let's
an
also be
asset
clear.
in Russia.
Ben saying that we're criticizing Carlson because we don't agree with him. So no,
Yeah.
we're criticizing Carlson. We'll fucking show you why we're criticizing Carlson when you can see his pro-Kremlin line and his pro-Russia agenda. We'll show you. So forget what we're saying. Like, you can turn the volume off right now, Ben, and push mute. And as soon as the videos come up, put it back on again, and that'll show you why we're criticizing Tucker Carlson. Is that fair, George?
Yeah. I also don't think Russia is controlling Carlson.
No, I haven't said that.
Yeah.
We haven't said that. We just said it. And also, Crazy Old World said Tucker wants to be president in 2028. A lot of people have put that out there that he wants to be a president at some stage in the future. But anyway, so let's not start with your and my opinion, George, because we're a couple of liberal lefties from the bottom of the South Island who may have a lot of more issues with Tucker Carlson and others. Let's start with someone who sits firmly and squarely on the right of politics in America. How about we start with that, shall we? A guy called Adam Kinzinger. He's a Republican. He's a politician. And he was asked to go on Tucker Carlson's show, and this was his response. This is not us. This is for Ben and others. It's not our response. This is a Republican's response in America.
Carlson's show tonight, and there's no way I'll go on his show for a number of reasons. But first, let me state that his insistence that the West was provoking war with Putin, his spreading lies about biolabs, and his continued spewing of conspiracy theories are nothing but complete evil. His show is full of Russian propaganda and not news. And I will not validate his show by making an appearance. I do not want to be associated with it in any way. And we all know what would happen. And we all know what the goal is. We know the interview would be promoted to get more viewers, to make more money, to further empower his garbage. And let's talk tactics. When Tucker interviews someone in a hostile way, he interrupts and laughs when he's been caught in a lie. And after the segment's over, he brings on another guest to try to discredit any statement made by the prior guest without counter. He's not interested in conversations. He's only interested in himself. And at the end of the day, he'll continue to use his platform to deceive his all too trusting viewers and to further his own sense of power. The situation in Ukraine is serious and the outlook is dire. And this moment requires serious conversation and decisive action, not a self-serving showboat clamoring for more clicks tonight. So rather than validate his propaganda programming, I'm going to use my effort to support the Ukrainian people. So if you're interested in joining me, please consider donating to the Stand With Ukraine Fund. It's at countryfirst.com, country1st.com. And 100% of the money raised will go to humanitarian aid for those still in Ukraine and for those who've become refugees. Tucker has made it clear he stands with Putin and his war against freedom. I stand with Ukraine, democracy, and the men and women willing to fight and die for their country. Finally, Sophia and I want to offer our prayers for Benjamin Hall, a Fox News reporter injured in Ukraine. The job they do is dangerous and appreciated. This makes Tucker's position all the more disgusting.
Right, so that's Adam Kinzinger. Stop all this so we don't play again. There we go. Adam Kinzinger basically calling out Tucker Carlson. Now, one could argue, I mean, you could say if you wanted to, that maybe Adam Kinzinger has a bias himself, right? Maybe he has an agenda. Maybe because he's a Republican and he wants to stay away from the Trump line, maybe his constituents are more sort of anti-Trump, so he's taking that line, and he might have an issue around Carlson for other reasons. Okay, fine. So let's go one step further. Let's go to the Kremlin itself, and let's try and figure out what the Kremlin is saying about Tucker Carlson. Interestingly enough, there's been a memo that's been leaked from the Kremlin instructing Russian media to play as much Fox and in particular Tucker Carlson on their airwaves as possible. I'll read you a couple of paragraphs from this story. It says, quote, the Fox News primetime host Tucker Carlson has been widely accused of echoing Russian propaganda about the invasion of Ukraine, according to a report on Sunday. Earlier this month, the Putin regime in Moscow sent out an instruction to friendly media outlets to, quote, use more clips of Carlson. Later on in this article, it says, the memo included an instruction, quote, it is essential to use as much as possible fragments of broadcasts of the popular Fox News host Tucker Carlson, who sharply criticizes the actions of the United States and NATO, their negative role in unleashing the conflict in Ukraine, and the defiantly provocative behavior from leadership of the Eastern countries and NATO towards the Russian Federation and towards President Putin personally. So, I know you probably want to jump on this, George, but I'm going to do one more thing. You might argue, oh, well, you know, someone's saying that someone said. Someone's claiming it was probably fake news. It probably wasn't. So let's do one more thing. Let's go to Tucker Carlson's clips himself. Yeah? Let's go to see what Tucker Carlson has said about it. So this is not what another Republican representative has said. This is not what a reporter said the Kremlin said. This is what Tucker Carlson has said over the Ukraine and Russia. This is what Tucker thinks. So this is his mouth. He has this in an auto cue. He has written this. He is reading this. These are pre-prepared statements about the Ukraine and Russia. You tell me after watching this, is he putting forward a pro-Kremlin, pro-Russia line or not?
But is there another reason we should side with Ukraine over Russia? Russia is a much more significant country by every measure. Why is it disloyal to side with Russia, but loyal to side with Ukraine? They're both foreign countries that don't care anything.
Let's just answer that as well. Why is it disloyal? Well, one of the countries is a democracy and an independent country. One of the countries is an autocracy run by a dictator. One of the countries invaded the other country, a sovereign land. So there are numerous reasons why we should support Ukraine over Russia, just in case Tucker ever saw this and he needs that actually clarified for him.
Anything about the United States, China, which is the actual threat. Why would we take Ukraine's side? Why wouldn't we be on Russia's side? I'm totally confused. So much. Has Putin ever called me a racist? Has he threatened to get me fired for disagreeing with him? Has he shipped every middle-class job in my town to Russia? I should say, for the record, I'm totally opposed to these sanctions, and I don't think that we should be at war with Russia. And I think we should probably take the side of Russia if we have to choose between Russia and Ukraine. That is my view. But and I'm serious. Like, why do I tell you why? And why shouldn't I root for Russia, which I am? And so now,
there you go. Why shouldn't I root for Russia, which I am? So for people who think, you know, Carlson does not have the same opinion, therefore Russia is controlling him. I mean, like, no one said that Russia is controlling Tucker Carlson, but we are saying he is furthering a pro-Russian narrative. He's speaking out against Ukraine. And what's happening in Russia is they are using his words to further their narrative to their people. So he is actively a part of the propaganda cycle of this war in Russia. George.
Yeah, no, just some background. Adam Kinzinger is, he's like one of those never Trump Republicans, right? That somehow his congressional district allows him to be, have those positions like being anti-Trump or anti-Tucker Carlson. What I see is like some sort of hypocrisy, right? That, you know, a Republican who relies on his constituency being, fed Fox News for over decades and conservative talkback radio finally finds in it, something wrong with it, right? That they're supposedly pro-Russia and that sort of thing, where Tucker Carlson has basically, been spouting white nationalist talking points,
sure,
especially when it came to the immigration crisis in America and Black Lives Matter for years and years, right? And so,
and the Kinzingers of this word were in support. They never spoke out about that, but they're speaking out against it. I guess you also then have to ask, is this the straw? It's probably not. But
not for people like Kinzinger, no. No, the line that they draw is when it comes to American empire and the interests of American foreign policy, right? That's the line that's crossing too far. The white nationalism at home is all right, but
Yep.
when it comes to American interests abroad, then Tucker can, needs to go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But look, I mean, the reason we want to echo this, and we're about to play a clip from, it's 2004, so it's the best part of 20 years ago, where Tucker Carlson was then on CNN and got dismantled by Jon Stewart. And one of the reasons I want to play it is because it's fucking amazing. But the second reason is you actually hear what Jon Stewart describes Tucker doing is exactly still what he's doing today. So we'll get to that in a second. But what I'm hoping, and I'm not confident of this, and I'm not, not trying to be Pollyanna here or anything, but is that at some stage people have to go enough. And I'm hoping that people, especially people in America, obviously really only people in America, can finally see that this host in particular, let alone all the other narratives on Fox News, is currently in support of Putin over a democracy. They spend 23 and a half of their hours screaming, we want to take democracy to the world, and we're the big boys of the world. We're going to take over the world and spread democracy. And then half an hour during Tucker Carlson talking about we want to support this autocracy and squash the democracy. I really hope that at some point there is cut through with this, and maybe it is the straw for some people to go, that's one step too far. Yes, you're right. Black Lives Matter should have been one step too far in the narrative on Fox. The white supremacy narrative on Fox should have been one step too far. But we all got to go, even if it means that, the person has to come and shoot your grandmother in the face, that becomes one step too far. There's got to be a line somewhere. And I just hope that this is the line for a good portion of people. Like it might not be. I'm not being naive about that, but I'm just hoping there could be. Simon also says Kinzinger is not standing for re-election. It's amazing how many of those Republicans get brave to speak out when they're not standing for re-election. Shall we get on to the part I've been looking forward to the whole show to play? Okay, so most of you know who Jon Stewart is. Jon Stewart is an icon for me because he was running his daily show through a segment of this century that I was starting to get into and most interested in American politics, through that kind of first decade and into the start of the second decade and he was phenomenal. He was a source of accurate news and information more so than anybody else. And one of the reasons he was when they set up the Daily Show, they set up as comedy first, news second, which means he did take pot shots at everybody. It didn't matter that he was liberal and from the left. They took pot shots at everybody. And so they always based it in comedy first. And when you based it in comedy first, as the jester did in medieval times to the king, you had the opportunity to speak truth to power because your main objective is to be funny. But when you're funny with truth, it's even more powerful. So your objective is not to further the narrative of a particular political party, AM show, we're looking at you, or Fox News, we're looking at you, but it was to be funny first. And that means it gave the Daily Show under Jon Stewart the opportunity to be cutting and truthful and real and actually better informed than 90% of the news viewers in America as well, the viewers of the Daily Show. So 2003, 2004, Jon Stewart very famously went on a show called Crossfire. Crossfire was set up to be a left versus right show. Tucker Carlson was one of the hosts as a 35-year-old. The other guy, I forget his name, but that's not the focus of this. And he's still on CNN now, I think. And he dismantled them. And this interview is said to be one of the reasons Crossfire got cancelled. And I'm just going to play you 3, 4, 5 minutes. I want you to hear the word, and you have to watch this. This has been watched tens of millions of times. I want you to hear the words that Jon Stewart is saying about Crossfire and about what Tucker Carlson and his co-host are doing, and think about what Tucker Carlson's doing today, and see if it echoes true to you. Have a listen.
Now, this is theater. I mean, it's obvious. How old are you?
35.
And you wear a bow tie.
Yeah, I do. I do.
So this is.
No, I know. Let me just go. Now, come on.
And listen, I'm not suggesting that you're not a smart guy, because those are not easy to tie. But the thing is that you're doing theater when you should be doing debate, which would be great.
No, it's
not honest. What you do is not honest. What you do is partisan hackery. And I'll tell you why I know
Kerry
it.
on your show, and you sniff his throne, and you're accusing us of partisan hackery?
Absolutely.
You've got to be kidding, man.
You're on CNN.
Say,
the show that leads into me is puppets making crank phone calls. What is wrong with you?
Well, I'm just saying, there's no reason for you, when you have this marvelous opportunity not to be the guy's butt boy, to go ahead and be his butt boy.
Yes,
Come on,
no,
it's embarrassing.
I was absolutely his butt boy. I was so far. You would not believe what he ate 2 weeks ago. You know, the interesting thing that I have is you have a responsibility to the public discourse, and you
need to get
fail
a job at a journalism
miserably.
school, I think.
You need to go to one. The thing that I want to say is, when you have people on knee-jerk reactionary talk.
Wait, I thought you were going to be funny. Come on, be funny.
No, I'm not going to be your monkey. Go ahead. I watch your show every day, and it kills me.
I can tell you love it.
It's so painful to watch. You know, because we need what you do. This is such a great opportunity you have here to actually get politicians
really Jon
off
Stewart?
of their
Is
marketing
anyway?
and strategy. Yeah, it's someone who watches your show and cannot take it anymore. I just can't.
What's it like to have dinner with you? It must be excruciating. Do you like lecture people like this? Or do you come over to their house and sit and lecture them and, you know, they're not doing the right thing, that they're missing their opportunities, evading their responsibilities?
If I think they are.
Look, I wouldn't want to eat with you, man. That's horrible.
I know, and you won't. But the thing I want to get
We did
to.
promise naked pictures of the Supreme
Yeah, we
Court.
did.
No.
Let's get to those.
Why
Which are in this book,
Why
which is a
can't we
very
just
funny
talk?
book.
Please, I beg of you guys.
I think you
Please.
watch too much Crossfire. We're going to take a quick
No.
break.
Look,
No, hold on. Joe.
please.
We've got commercials. Hold on.
Please.
Next,
Please
Jon
stop.
Stewart in the rapid fire.
Please
Hopefully
stop.
he'll be here. We hope. We think. And then, did you ask?
So yeah, and people will look at that and think it's hilarious, and it's very, very funny. But what he said was so telling and so true, and the idea of theater, disingenuous, you know, it's completely accurate to what's happening today. I wanted to play it because of us talking about Tucker, but it's that I guess that spreads to media in general. That went out live on CNN. I mean, that looks like something that they'd never broadcast, and that was scraped from a back room. Some employee brought out, but that went out live on CNN. This comedian decimating this show and telling the journalists there, if Tucker is a journalist or not, that they actually need to do better. And the reason they need to do better is for us. We need to have better of them. And we should expect more of our journalists and our political commentators and our people putting out information, because we need them to be. I've tried to get the Prime Minister since pre-2018. I got told at the start of, because I do a podcast as well, not just this. I do a podcast that's actually platformed on stuff.co.nz. So it's got some reach, you know. And I got told at the start of last year, 2019, that the Prime Minister was not available for the rest of the year for me. That is carte blanche said it. Now, I don't have a problem with that in general. She's the Prime Minister, you know, COVID, you know, White Island, you know, all sorts of problems going on. But we need people who do have access to these people, because we don't, to be able to actually ask the questions on our behalf and be genuine and actually look for answers and not do fucking theater. That's what we need.